And we're live. Welcome to American Hammers TV. I'm your host, Justin. I'm with Matt. You're from Tampa, correct?
I am. That's right.
Okay. Are you from there originally? Do you just go to school there? What's the deal?
Yeah, so I'm a Floridian, born and raised. Probably grew up in an hour north of Tampa. I live here now. I love it. It's a great city, and got some pretty good spots to watch Premier League games on Saturdays. So yeah, I can't complain.
Nice. Yeah, I have a big office with my job in Tampa, and so I go down there a little bit. It's in Oldsmar, so I've explored.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
So Fixture Focus, for those of you who are watching this show for the first time, it's where we interview supporters of West Ham are about to play in their upcoming fixture, and we talk about the match and a little bit about our guests' fandom and how they became fans of the club that they support. So let's start with that, Matt. You're from Tampa. What's the connection to Southampton? How did you become a fan of the Saints?
Yeah, so my original support probably sounds a little disingenuous, but I actually found them through FIFA. Probably FIFA 13 is when I started using them pretty regularly in like manager mode. I liked a lot of the guys on the team at the time, like Luke Shaw, Jay Rodriguez, Ricky Lambert. It was a fun team to use around the same time as when NBC started getting a lot of the broadcasts. At the time, you were able to watch all of the games. They didn't have like that gold pass where you had to pay the annual membership fee. So it was really easy to watch all of their games. And for me, I grew up in a market supporting teams like the Tampa Bay Rays and the Buccaneers. Not heavily favored teams. So for me, when I was going to pick a team to start following in the Premier League, it was going to be the team that probably was in a smaller market, not always favored to win, but could hold their own against the bigger teams. And that's pretty much what I found out when I started watching their games, because prior to that, I didn't know anything about them. At the time, they were being coached by Mauricio Pochettino. I think it was his last season there before he moved on to Spurs. And really saw this team just holding their own against teams like, Man United, Liverpool. So I thought that was super cool. And from there, my fandom just kind of grew. I stuck with them. I followed them season after season. After Pochettino moved to Spurs, they brought in Ronald Koeman, and he just he brought in a great style of football. And we had like Grand Dusan Tadic, and it was incredible. I remember the game that stands out for me that season was when they beat Sunderland 8-0. It was just a great season. They had Sadio Mane at the time, so it was great. The more I learned about the club, I knew about their roots and how they really focused on developing a lot of major talent. Like I found out that Gareth Bale started in their academy, and they produced people like
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So before he played for Spurs, he actually played about, I think, 40 games with Southampton. He won in the championship. And then he ultimately got his move. And they produced some pretty great names, like Adam Lallana, another one. Obviously now with James Ward-Prowse in the first team, he's probably been one of the biggest credits to the academy, going from their youth team to the first team and now being their mainstay in the starting 11.
Yeah, so you mentioned those early days, with Poch and Coleman. I'm impressed that you've stuck with the team. Like a lot of, I think, fans here are a little more fair weather. I wouldn't say a lot of fans here are fair weather. What I meant was, I guess there's a higher percentage of fair weather fans compared to over in Europe, just because of the lack of hometown connection. So I'm impressed that you've stuck with the club, even though the last 2 years have been, pretty tough to watch from a Saints perspective.
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. They've been a little difficult, and it's funny because you can kind of chalk it up as a bait and switch in a way, because when you come into the team and they're doing so well, you don't, when you start watching them, you don't really know anything prior. I mean, that's all you know. and when I had started really following them, they were setting their best records in their club's history. They were, we're getting top 6 consistently. They were getting to the Europa League, in consecutive seasons. So it was definitely a coping period when that all kind of ended, and every week became a real struggle. The wins weren't really a given anymore, and you really had to cherish any run of form. So it's been that way probably since the beginning of 2017-18 season. But I mean, I'm invested. I don't think I could support any other club. I've gone to see them in person, and it's a great experience. Them for life.
Nice. That's good to hear. Yeah, your story's a bit similar to mine. When I was picking a team, I picked a team that I wanted to find similar to the Chicago Cubs. I'm from Chicago, and I'm a big sports guy. And at the time, the Cubs hadn't won in 100+ years. Obviously, they've won since then, but West Ham don't win that much either. So there was a bit of a connection with that. But also, similar to you, it was the second season that I watched West Ham, and it was their last season at the old Bowling Ground, and we finished 7th, right behind you guys, I believe. And it was just a magical season, just a lot of wins, a lot of great comebacks. And I thought, especially moving into the new stadium, that the club was turning a corner, and I was starting to support the team right at the best time. And it's just been so inconsistent and frustrating since the stadium move that was supposedly going to bring us more consistent soccer that challenged every year for Europe, similar to what you guys were doing. So I sort of feel your frustration a bit.
Yeah. I mean, for my own view of West Ham, I'd say out of all the other teams that, aren't specifically top 6, they look the best equipped to make that jump. And, we just haven't seen that happen yet. They have a tremendous, venue, being in the Olympic Stadium there, and got a great staff from what I understand. And I think everybody's just waiting for them to make that next step and really challenge those other teams for European places, and we haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I'd say a majority of Ham fans would disagree on the great staff comment now, just because we've struggled so mightily. If you talked to us before the season started, I think everyone would have agreed with you. But when you only win 1 game in 11 matches and lose, I think we've lost 7 or 8 of those games. I think 7. It's just it's not going too well. And we'll get into that a little bit. But I wanted to talk to you about your expectations for the club, for Southampton, before the season started. Obviously, you guys were hovering around in and out of the relegation zone last year. What were your expectations this year? Was it simply survival, or were you expecting to push on a little bit?
Yeah, definitely push on. Given that last season we kind of got off to a slow start with Mark Hughes, while weren't really going anywhere. Obviously, he saved Saints the previous season from getting relegated. At the time, I didn't really think he was the guy to, keep us going forward. I think we needed to bring in someone new. And when we did that, we brought in Ralph Hasenhüttl. I mean, I was very, very excited. And with his philosophy of developing players and, playing a more attack-focused style of play, you saw a drastic change in the way the team played after his appointment. I think his first home game, we beat Arsenal. The games we had played were, I think the only win we had was against Crystal. You really felt a rejuvenated sense of pride, and they were going to continue going forward. And we finished the season. I think we were in the top 10 in after January. So each season, obviously, your expectations are high. I mean, I didn't think we would maybe break into the top 6 again, but at least make top 10. Just had, unfortunately, a lot of inconsistent, in the way we've played, and thought it might have picked up with Norwich, and then right after that, I think it was Norwich. We played Arsenal, then we played Norwich the game again.
Drew Arsenal too.
Drew Arsenal. Hold on.
Yeah, and I remember. Yeah, I remember you guys. You guys definitely have picked up some points in the last few matches.
Yeah, Watford, Norwich, those two. You thought it was going to change, and then we went into the game against Newcastle. Went up with things. You saw the areas that are still us to beat us in that game. Not having organized defense, and not having the mental fortitude in the key moments. I mean, that's what cost us the game, and also the Arsenal game.
So, I mean, what else has gone wrong? Is it simply just a lack of mental toughness, or is it something else that has really prevented you guys from making that step forward under Hasenhüttl this year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing has just been our defense. We don't really have a lot of consistent strength there. We constantly cycle out center backs. Goalkeeping too has been an issue. We've gone back and forth between Gunn and McCarthy. I think McCarthy is the favored one right now. There's just been a lot of weakness there, and when you can play really well offensively, obviously we have really good attacking talent with Ings and also Musa Djenepo. You can really hurt if you can't defend those goals that they go score and defend that lead. So that's been the biggest area of weakness, I think.
Gotcha. So let's talk a little bit about expectations moving forward. Given the position that you're in, is your expectation right now, or your hope, simply survival? Is that all you care about right now, or are you still thinking, hey, we've been on a slightly good run of form the last few matches, maybe, especially with a win against the struggling West Ham side, we can start picking up points, gaining some steam, and maybe attempt for a top half finish?
Yeah, I think the West Ham game's crucial. Last couple of games have been crucial. If you pick up points in these games, these are really the games that can define your season or the direction that it goes. Because when you win, and it's cliche, but confidence is higher. So if you win, you go into these games, maybe against teams where you aren't favored, they get points. But if you get those points against Chelsea, maybe you get those points that you were.
Hey Matt, you're breaking.
You drop points.
Hey Matt, you're breaking up a bit. Would you maybe exit the studio really quick and then come back in?
Yeah, sure thing.
That may help. Okay. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. In the meantime, I am going to give some stats for some fixture stats. So Southampton have lost 4 of their last 5 Premier League meetings with West Ham, conceding at least twice in each match. Southampton had only lost 3 of the previous 12 against West Ham. So in terms of the fixture, West Ham's form is good going into the fixture. However, as we all know, the form overall in the last couple of months has been poor. Let's see if Matt will. The next one is West Ham have won more Premier League games against Southampton than they have versus any other side. I didn't know that. 16 victories against Southampton. I'm definitely going to let Matt know. Hey, Matt. Hey, Matt. Can you hear me?
Is it better? Yeah, I can hear you.
Man. Yeah, a little better. Cool. I was just going through some fixture stats, and one that came across I wanted to repeat for you. West Ham have actually won more Premier League games against Southampton than they have versus any other side, 16 wins. So historically, West Ham have dominated this fixture a little bit. Oh man. Hey.
I can see you now.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I was just some stats, but we can move forward. So expectations, you were saying, definitely, this part of the season defines a club's overall season, or at least could define a club's overall season. So do you still believe that, you could push for a top half finish?
Certainly. I mean, look at like points off of the first team in the relegation zone, or 9 points, I should say. So it's an insane. So it brings together a draw here and there. I mean, there's no reason to think you can't end up in a higher, place later.
Hey, Matt. It was still a little hard to hear you. I think maybe if you hop off and go on a mobile device, it could potentially work a little better. If that's possible.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe that'll. I'll talk about some stats in the meantime. So just take your time.
Sure. Yeah. No problem.
All right. Sorry about those technical difficulties, guys. Hopefully the mobile device works a little better for Matt. So yeah, in the meantime, talk a little bit more about some fixture stats here. Do a little improv, test my improv skills. See how those are. So yeah, I mentioned the fact that West Ham have won more Premier League games against Southampton than any other side. Didn't know that. Wouldn't have suspected that at all. 16 victories. Interestingly enough, though, West Ham have not opened the scoring in any of their last 15 Premier League visits away to Southampton. The last 15 matches at Southampton, West Ham have not scored first. And yet, West Ham have won more Premier League games against the club, and Southampton have lost 4 of the last 5. I believe we won last year 2-1. And yeah, I think we did get scored on first. Yeah, we did get scored on first. Last fixture at St. Mary's before a Felipe Anderson double, I believe. That's right when he was about to get hot for us. Hopefully another visit to St. Mary's can sort of remind him of that and sort of get him going a bit. I also remember a few years ago when we won 3-1, I believe, and Manolo Gabbiadini scored for Southampton. It was his debut. First game for the club. One of my 3 golden rules for West Ham: either if you haven't won in a while, or if you have a new manager, or if you have a new player that hasn't scored, or the same old player who hasn't scored in a while, play West Ham, and we're the gift that keeps on giving. And I remember Manolo Gabbiadini, he scored the first goal, I believe, and then West Ham proceeded to score three in a row. I believe it was Obiang, Antonio, and Andy Carroll even got a goal. But yeah, very, very interesting stat that West Ham haven't opened the scoring in any of their last 15 Premier League visits to the Saints and they haven't done it since 1995, which was ironically not even a win. It was a 1-1 draw in March 1995. Despite that, they've ended up on the losing side in under half those games. Interesting. After a run of 8 successive home games without a win, 3 draws and 5 losses, Southampton have won their last 2 at home in the Premier League. They were struggling a lot at St. Mary's. I think that was really topped off with that 9-0 robbing by Leicester City, which I also think, on the flip side, really spurred Leicester City, gave them all the confidence in the world. And I'm not quite sure if I don't think Leicester haven't lost since. I don't think they haven't not won since that match. So after a run of 8 successive home games without a win, including that 9-0 loss to Leicester, they actually have won their last 2. The last time they won 3 consecutively at St. Mary's was just a few years ago. It was May of 2016. That was the year they actually caught West Ham and leapfrogged us into 6th place on the last day of the season, preventing us from getting straight into the group stages of Europa League, or at least the last qualifying round. It forced us to go through the 3 qualifying rounds, where we eventually lost to that the bunch of Romanian farmers, as Dom called it. After an unbeaten run of 6 Premier League away games, 3 wins and 3 draws, West Ham have lost 3 of their last 4 on the road. Obviously, that one non-loss was that victory at Stamford Bridge. And what seems like months ago, it was just, 2 weeks ago now? Seems like a long time ago. However, West Ham have won a higher proportion of their Premier League points in away games this season than any other side, which is interesting. 56.3% of our points have come from away games. I can do the math for it. I guess 16 times 0.563, 9 points. 9 of our 16 points have come from away games. Hasn't really done us much use lately. And another depressing West Ham stat: only Aston Villa have dropped more points from winning positions this year than our beloved Irons in the Premier League. Villa have dropped 13 points from winning positions. West Ham, 12. Indeed, the 12 points that West Ham have dropped is as many as they lost from. Indeed, so the 12 points that West Ham have dropped from winning positions this year is as much as the number of points that they dropped from winning positions last year already. We're not even halfway done through the season. So what that says to me is a couple of things could be happening, or maybe are happening simultaneously. One, fitness levels are down, and therefore we are not staying in games. I think the Arsenal game showed that a little bit. And we're not staying in games, and we're allowing teams to come back when we do have those winning positions. There are also issues with that. Why aren't the players fit enough? Is it not enough motivation or discipline in training? That obviously comes from the coaching staff and the manager. It could be simply lack. It could be, but it definitely is due to a lack of mental toughness. We've seen that amongst our squad many times. And I also think that it could be due to a lack of plan B that Manuel Pellegrini has in his games. Whether we're down 1 or up 1, it seems like there is no in-match adjustment at all to whatever our squad or whatever club we're playing. Either a substitution or an adjustment happens way too late, or it never happens at all. So, yeah, I think that stat, 12 points given up from winning positions this year is absolutely massive. If you just get half of those points, you have 22 points. You're only a couple spots off of 7th or off of 6th place. It's off of 5th place actually. It's quite amazing what a lack of fitness and a lack of mental toughness can do. My improv skills may not be good enough to keep this conversation going for too long. I will say, I guess I'll give my opinions to those that do watch Fixture Focus on Manuel Pellegrini. You've heard of them on the Clarendon News show with Matt Gregory, fellow Chicago Hammer. But yeah, I definitely I always was going to give Pellegrini until the Southampton game, especially after the Chelsea victory. I know a lot of people disagree with me. I obviously believe that if we lose to Southampton on Saturday, I would be severely disappointed and angry if Pellegrini isn't fired that evening. The board have had a few weeks now where Pellegrini's on the hot seat. They've had time to reach out to potential caretakers or full-time managers. And something that Matt from the Chicago Hammers has mentioned a couple of times, West Ham, after this match for Southampton, have a 12-day break because the match versus Liverpool next weekend has been canceled. So the club will have plenty of time to hire a caretaker or a full-time manager before the next game against Crystal Palace. There's no excuse. In my opinion, if there isn't a win, and I'll get Matt back on here. Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Good. Fingers crossed this time.
Yeah, man. I was just finishing up a little spiel about Manuel Pellegrini. I was giving my opinion on the guy as his hot seat got a little warmer about a month and a half ago. I was always looking at this Southampton game as sort of the game by which he had to turn it around. And bar a win versus Chelsea a couple of weeks ago, which was a good win, he has not turned it around. And there's no doubt in my mind that I believe he'll be back if we lose to Southampton. In my opinion, our board, our owners have had plenty of time to find a potential caretaker or even a potential full-time manager if it comes to this. And on top of that, next weekend's match, which was supposed to be against Liverpool, got postponed due to Liverpool being in the Club World Cup. So we have is between the Southampton match and our next match, which gives the board even more time to find a manager. So in my opinion, there is no excuse. If we lose on Saturday, Manuel Pellegrini should be fired before the club leaves the stadium. The only question I have is if we play sort of well and actually draw and get a point against you guys, what would happen? I'm not 100% confident that Pellegrini would be fired. I believe he should be fired. In my opinion, that's a must win. We have to win. And even so, even if we did win, I'd say there's a majority of West Ham fans that would still want him out. Now, speaking of managers, being on the hot seat, I know Hasenhüttl was definitely on the hot seat, especially about a month or two ago, especially after that drubbing that you guys got from Leicester. Like we mentioned a couple of times, there has been a positive run of form. What are your thoughts on Hasenhüttl now? Is he still on the hot seat? Will a loss to West Ham get him sacked? Is he close to being sacked? Will he have a few more games to figure it out? What's the Ralph Hasenhüttl situation like?
Yeah, it's interesting because he's a very likable guy. He brings a great philosophy to the teams he's been with. If you look at his track record in the Bundesliga, you see nothing but success there. He's gone into sides and have been able to build them up, promote them, with not a tremendous amount of financial ability, as well. Obviously he was with Leipzig, and but to take them from where they were and then finish second in the Bundesliga is really impressive. So I think a lot of Southampton fans would agree with me in that if there's someone to take Southampton forward, it's Ralph Hasenhüttl. So that's where I'm at. I know that he does have the backing of the club hierarchy to do so. Much of the squad he's working with right now are still players left over from previous management. So I think if he's given the ability to build more and create the team that he wants to play, I think he's the guy to take us forward. It's just been unfortunate that we've experienced the form we have, and I think a lot of it doesn't exactly, I guess, correlate with the type of manager that he is. It's just, if he was to get sacked, it would just be, maybe an unfortunate match of timing, because I think he's a great manager, and there's no one else I think that would be better suited for what type of club Southampton is, with the emphasis on developing youth and the high press attacking play. Because that's the only way a team like Southampton's going to get points from those bigger sides where the talent's better.
So that sounds like your personal opinion. Would you say that the majority of the Southampton faithful would agree with you?
It's really mixed. I know there's a lot of Southampton fans who do share my views, but there's a lot who are very skeptical and would rather see someone who will come in and make sure that our status in the Premier League is preserved. I don't know who that would be, but I know people, have been skeptical towards his being the manager. But we really have to see, because if we win, then you don't see any kind of complaining. But if we lose, then all of a sudden everybody comes out of the woodwork and is the first critic. So it's been that way. So we'll have to see how it continues. I think if he does enough to keep us in the league, pushing for a top 10 spot, there won't be any kind of debate.
Yeah, winning cures all, man. Winning
honestly
cures all, and then losing is just the ultimate disease. It's pretty crazy how that works. Neil, one of the guys who, one of our most loyal followers, he's like in like 99% of the videos commenting. He did a comment. So Matt, to give you a little background. So this is Neil's comment, actually. What do you think of the second coach apparently taking the training before the Chelsea game? And if true, would you try him as a caretaker manager if Pellegrini is given his DCM? I'm assuming that's the Australian equivalent of a pink slip. So Matt, just a little background. There have been a couple stories that have come out in the last 24 hours saying that during training before the Chelsea victory, which has been our only victory in the last 11 games, there was actually one of our assistant coaches. I forgot his name. I'll try to look it up while I'm talking. One of the assistant coaches took over a lot of the training in the
really?
leading up to the game, and he was the one that sort of scouted Chelsea and planned for them and developed a game plan, and it worked really to perfection.
Oh, okay.
His name is Enzo Maresca. He's the second assistant coach. But anyways, on top of that, there have been. Neil says DCM stands for Don't Come Monday. Okay, that makes sense. So on top of that, these stories have also mentioned that the players really respect Maresca. They really enjoy working with him, and they like when he leads training sessions. And okay. Neil's asking what he thinks. And I'll just give a little background. So when I played, I'm not going to say when this was, because I don't want to give it away and throw my coach under the bus. But when I played on a competitive basketball team, and we were pretty bad, and we were about to play this ranked team in our conference. And instead of our head coach leading the practices that week, our second assistant coach actually knew the team really well, had coached for them in the past, and led practices for the 2 or 3 days before the game. And this was a ranked national team. And we kicked their ass. We beat them by like 25 points. So I have been in situations like that as an athlete. And I could tell you that after that, there was definitely some questioning of like, wow, like, is the head coach really doing what he needs to do? Like, we're winning with the second assistant coach training us and not, so I could definitely see how that could be adding some questions in the players' minds, which could obviously lead to performances. I mean, I know you're not super close to the situation, Matt, but what do you think about that story?
Yeah, it's really funny. It's very similar. I guess I can relate to that. I don't know if you've followed any of the Southampton news at all, but last season when Hasenhüttl came into the side, he brought his assistant from Leipzig with him. His name's Danny Roll. Mm-hmm. And a lot of our success we saw obviously was with the pair of them this season. Before we even played our first game against Burnley, Danny Roll was actually appointed to be on the Bayern Munich coaching staff. And after that is when we, dropped the 3-0 defeat to Burnley. So that ramped up a lot of speculation that maybe Hasenhüttl needed Roll's like perception or view to help him in his coaching strategy.
Yeah.
Because in the games after that, it really seemed like it wasn't the same approach or team. So very coincidental that you mentioned that with the second manager for West Ham, because I think a lot of Southampton fans have made that same assertion with Hasenhüttl and Danny Roll. So
interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
So yeah, definitely see where you're at.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you if you have anything else more to say about it.
Yeah, just going back to your initial point with the West Ham, was it secondary manager or
second assistant coach.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely see where West Ham fans would see that and say, hey, maybe this guy is actually the guy in the trenches figuring out how we beat our opponents. Because I mean, I know Pellegrini he's a little bit older, so I don't know how active he is in all of that, and if it's more of a staff effort, and maybe this guy is being held back by Pellegrini's judgment. So I understand where the fan sentiment is.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, as you know, with like the media, and especially the media in sport, and I even would venture to say the media in the world of soccer, these stories can really like run the rumor mill, get a little blown out of proportion, and who knows what the real story is. I'm sure there's more to it. But yeah, and then so yeah, Neil, to your point, Neil says he's as active as a figure in Madame Tussauds.
So not too active then.
No. And then Keith Bennett, thanks for commenting, Keith. Keith says Pellers has no motivational skills. He's got to go. The players don't believe in him. And I will admit that I got on the Pellegrini out train later than a lot of West Ham fans, because I do believe that sports fans in general, I'm not saying West Ham fans, I'm not saying specific West Ham fans, I'm not even saying soccer fans, sports fans in general can be very fickle, both when good things are going well and when things are going not well. And I tried to sort of stay calm.
Sure.
And I definitely got on the Pellegrini out train late, but I could not agree more with Keith's statement. I'm not discounting the players' role in the negative season that West Ham has encountered. The players are out there; they're the ones playing, and they need to be held accountable. However, you can't fire all the players, and it's the job of the manager to develop a game plan, motivate, and inspire confidence in the game plan. And there is no question whatsoever that West Ham players do not know what they're doing and or have no confidence in what they're doing at all. And segueing into that, I have one more question before we go with a prediction. What did you think after that Leicester showing? Because I saw the highlights of that game, and I legitimately felt bad for not only the fans, but the players as well. I mean, they just looked like, I don't think any player wanted to lose 9-0. And that was just a drubbing. Leicester could not be stopped. Like, what was your thought after that game? Was Hasenhüttl that close to being sacked? Did you think, man, we are going down for sure? Like, what were your What were your opinions after that?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, I was traveling that day, so I actually didn't like watch it.
That's
It's
good.
probably for the best. But I, obviously just followed the games. Yeah, I mean that was definitely an eyes-opening experience. I had people like in my mentions or DMing me like I had like lost a family member or relative. Like, they were like,
Oh man.
Obviously it's. I think it tied for the worst defeat in the Premier League era, at least or it might be the
I
worst
believe
at home.
so.
So I think
Yeah.
the worst. I think they tied the worst defeat, which was Man United beat somebody,
Might
obviously
have
at
been
home.
Ipswich, I think.
Ipswich, yeah, I believe it was Ipswich. So they beat them at home. So this is the worst. Or no, they beat them at Old Trafford. So this was the worst defeat at home. I mean, the people you really feel for are the people in the seats. So my immediate thought went to people who were at the games, obviously, because following the club, I've connected with a lot of their fans. When I visited Southampton earlier this year, was able to talk to a lot of people there. So that's where your initial feeling goes towards. And it's hard because I didn't totally blame Hasenhüttl at the time, and he's not the one who's in goal conceding those goals, and I think really the players were the ones who gave up. It reached a point where they just weren't motivated anymore, and that probably led to the few other Leicester goals that we saw scored. But I mean, it was difficult. But I mean, never once did I think that we should sack Ralph and hire somebody else. I thought that would have been a knee-jerk reaction. The 9-0 score line I knew wasn't reflective of the squad or its ability. I mean, obviously it was just a one-off bad performance, but a really tragic one at that.
Yeah, like I said, I definitely felt bad. It was I was starting to think like, I'm a competitive guy, so I actually think it would have been disrespectful if Leicester didn't actually keep going at you guys in a way. I feel like if they would have just sort of fucked around and like showboated and laughed and doing all these things and not continued to be competitive themselves, I actually think that would have been more disrespectful. But at the same time, I was like, mercy, like let's cut it off. Yeah, but like I said, you guys have bounced back, and I've always admired Southampton as a club. I always think they've gone about it the right way. They have a great scouting system, a great academy, and I definitely am hoping that you guys stay up. Obviously, not at the expense of West Ham. And let's talk about this fixture. Let's give some predictions, because this is a massive game for both teams. A win for us, a win for us gives us a little breathing room. It'll give us 4 points of breathing room between us and the bottom three. Obviously, a win for you guys. Even a draw could get you out of the relegation zone potentially, but a win definitely gets you a couple points breathing room. Huge match. So I always like to end it with a prediction. What do you think the score is going to be on Saturday?
I mean, I really hope we come out with a strong performance offensively. And I think with the injuries that West Ham have and the eagerness we have to bounce back from the Newcastle game, being at home, I want to say 3-1 to the Saints.
3-1. Yeah, I'm not too far off. I don't have any confidence in West Ham at the moment. I never want my team to lose. If we did lose and Pellegrini got fired, I would feel a sense of relief. Absolutely. It's such a shame. It's such a shame to say that. And if you told me in August that I'd be saying that in December, I would have laughed. I would have said you're crazy. But it is the case. And, I can't see us winning. I do see us scoring a goal.
Yeah.
I see us giving up a couple. So I'm going to go 2-1 Southampton. I
2-1.
hope I'm wrong. But I just can't see West. I mean, you guys are also like a little bit on the up as well. I just can't see anything but a Saints victory.
Yeah, I'm hoping. Like I said, I'm not too confident in our defense. I think we'll definitely concede. Clean sheets have definitely been a problem for us.
Yes.
The last one we've kept, I think, was away in Sheffield again in September. So we haven't kept a clean sheet since then. So I definitely think we'll let you get in a goal. Like Felipe Anderson was stellar in that last outing they had at St. Mary's. So I'd expect him to do pretty well with that.
Yeah.
Personally, I hope that we don't play Cedric Soares at right back because he's just been pretty absent in the last couple of games. Normally, dependent on him as a wing back, someone who can give you that speed in the defending area. So if an attacker breaks down the wing, you expect him to close them down. He's been having issues doing that recently. Hasn't been crossing the way he could be. So if we play him there, I would expect West Ham to attack that side of the field just to exploit that. But I do really enjoy the dynamic that Musa Djenepo can bring. If we do start him, he's just got a lot of great dribbling ability. So he likes to take guys on one-on-one. If he gets into the box, he can really be a threat. Yeah. And then with the way Ings has been playing, I think he's scored like 8 of his last 9 games. So
yeah, he's been on fire.
I hope he continues that, and he needs to. The biggest thing for Southampton is we haven't been winning the games that we should be winning, and on paper we should go into this and win it. But that's not always been the case. We should have, with the way the game went last week. With being up 1-0 in the second half, that's a game you got to put away, and we didn't, and we missed chances. In the Arsenal game, we missed chances. So I think for West Ham, their key is capitalizing on Southampton not cashing in on their opportunities.
So if Southampton were to lose on Saturday, where would that put your mindset? What would you be thinking?
Obviously, it would be difficult, but I think it would keep me in a similar state to where I'm at right now. I'd be disappointed, but we need to keep those victories going, because if not, we're going to keep ourselves in the bottom 3 and really prevent ourselves from actually making a jump to somewhere safe. So a loss to West Ham would definitely be concerning, because we have Chelsea right after that. So I think that would be where my biggest anxiety would come from. Not so much losing the game, but then losing this game and then going into a much challenging match.
Yeah.
Off of that loss. Yeah.
A few, like, heading into the new year in the bottom 3, that's when you start to hit the panic button a little bit. So, well, man, I think we'll wrap it up there. Whatever you did when you came back in the studio, it worked. Neil even commented saying it's a great connection. So
cool. Thanks, Neil.
When we do this for the reverse fixture, sit where you're sitting. You did. And it was actually great. There was no delay. There was no choppiness. It was awesome.
Great.
And thanks for coming on. Really, I hope we're both wrong in our predictions, but yeah, man. I like I said, I can't see any West Ham getting anything from this. So we'll see. But yeah, thanks again, man.
Yeah, all we can hope for is an exciting match on both sides, and definitely best of luck to you guys. If you don't end up with a victory, at least you probably ditch Pellegrini.
Absolutely.
Look to move on from there.
Absolutely, man. All right, thanks, Matt.
Yeah, thank you, Justin.